okay.
That's
I have to edit the title after this is done.
That's okay.
I pushed enter after doing ABC's theater.
We are live.
Oh, great. Oh, no. Oh my God.
Yay.
Yay.
They always get to hear us talking in the beginning because I'm waiting for the YouTube to pop up. There's a lag. Hi, everybody. Welcome to KP Live. Today is Thursday, ABCs of Theater, and we're going to talk to actors, backers, and crew at theater. And today's a very special Sam Interviews Sam edition. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yay. I'm so excited to interview you.
Wait, what?
Sam Interviews Sam.
Yeah, Sam interviews Sam. Yeah, me, Sam, interviews you.
Wait, why is that happening? Because it just says Sam interviews Sam, and I'm Sam.
But I'm also Sam.
Oh, gosh.
How did he not?
Wait, you're going to, hold on. Who produces this?
Who produces this? Oh.
It says Sam.
Oh.
So hold on, you're putting me in the hot seat?
Yes, I am going to be putting you in the hot seat tonight for interviewing. So,
with all my questions that I had for you.
We'll use them another time.
All right.
All right.
Now I'm nervous.
Well, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, let's get started.
Okay.
This is my good friend, Samantha Barrios. She is an actor, director, scenic designer, makeup designer. She's great with hair, fight choreo, stunts. She rides horses. She does all sorts of great things in theater and the film and the television. So she does all sorts of great things. She is so well-rounded, and she's such a great friend of mine. We met doing Pippin almost exactly a year ago, and we have just been conjoined at the hip since then. So really excited to interview her for you guys and learn a little bit more about her.
Yay.
So
I just want to say really quickly, caveat, we have to put stunts in quotes.
Stunts.
I really just do stage combat and pratfalls. Let's be honest.
Well, that's really all you need.
Let's be honest. I'm not going through windows. I'm not falling out of 30-story buildings. I'm not flying outside on planes. Okay, we'll say yet.
I think we should.
All right.
So I know that you have been involved with Kentwood for a while now. How did you originally hear about them? When did you first join them? What made you want to stay?
So it's kind of a funny story. I had just moved to Los Angeles the year before, and I kept getting booked back in Oklahoma. I kept booking gigs, and so I was traveling back and doing those gigs. And I knew that I needed to establish something here where I was going to keep doing that. So, but same time, my roommate at the time, her best friend's girlfriend, now wife, they had just moved, and she was also an actress. And so, okay, so just know that. Anyway, so then I search backstage. I'm looking for auditions. I see that this place called Kentwoodplayers is doing Dracula. I'd never heard of Westchester. I was new to the city, so I didn't know where that was, but I knew I wanted to do Dracula.
Right.
So I went to the auditions, and it was actually really close to our house, which was amazing because in Los Angeles that doesn't happen ever. And so I was really excited about that. I got into the show, thrilled. I love Dracula, so I was really thrilled about this. And then, funny story, said girlfriend that I was speaking of, who is also one of my best friends, she had already gotten and was rehearsing in a play, which I knew, which was As You Like It. So I went on to check out this theater to see like what are they about? Like I need to make sure I didn't rope myself up into something, not great. I knew that wasn't going to be the case because they were so wonderful. Like the director and the producers and everyone I read with were so professional. So I knew it was going to be great. But I went on, and sure enough, all these pictures pop up of As You Like It. And there's my friend Lauren. And I'm like, what? So I called Lauren, and she confirmed that, yes, she was loving it. It's a wonderful place to work. And so I was really excited to start there.
That's great. What made you want to stay? How many productions have you been in? Do you even know? Because I know you've been involved with so many.
I don't know. I actually do not know the answer to that question.
Well, you've been there.
Sit down and think about it.
When did you first join?
So that was 2010.
2010.
When I first joined in the summer. I mean, the auditions were in the summer of 2010. And I've been there ever since. I joined as soon as that show closed. I joined the theater. And part of the reason why I stayed was Charlotte, who anybody who knows Charlotte is like, yeah, that makes sense. She's one of the like longest time members of the theater. And she is so welcoming and loving and just supportive. I mean, she sees when she could, she would see the show like 15 out of 17 times. Like she was so supportive and amazing. But also just that feeling of camaraderie. I was really impressed. We do a thing on Work Sunday where the show that was previously on is struck, and then the new show is built back up. And so many members came that were not in our, just part of our small cast and crew, just to help strike and then build. It was so great. They had a thriving kids program, which I am a teacher. And so I had left that in New York, which I loved. And in Oklahoma. And so I wanted to get back involved in that. So that also find my way in there. And yeah, it just was, I had met such great people and I don't know, I just loved the feel. So I wanted to stay there.
I think that's what's so great about community theater is it really is an apt name because it just brings together a community of people and it forms such lifelong bonds with people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I still keep in touch with everybody that was in Dracula or involved with Dracula. One of my bestest friends, she and I met during that show. And I mean, actually, now that I think about it, John he did hair and makeup for that show. And that is, and he and I are so close. I love him so much. He's so dear to me. Biddy is producer and married to the director, Sean. I'm so very close. I love them so much. I mean, everybody, Allie was producer on it. I'll go on and on, but also so I'm here, I moved to Los Angeles primarily to do film and television. Uh-huh. And I didn't know it had such a thriving theater community.
Right.
It was a really hard choice because theater is my first love.
Uh-huh.
And I was so excited to find that it has such a thriving theater community. And I can leave this film and television world for a moment, this hard world where we're all just struggling we're all struggling for one role, and we're all just trying to make it. And I can go back to this place where I feel grounded, and it's a place where I can take risks, where I can try things and have opportunities that I normally wouldn't. I feel exactly like you said, like a part of a community. And so I can just get built back up to face the Hollywood world.
You're so right about LA theater. Nobody really, I feel, knows LA for theater. Everyone knows it for film, but there are so many theaters in Los Angeles that are community theaters, they're regional theaters, there's big, the Pantages, the Amundsen, there's theaters at every level. So there's places for pretty much any kind of actor to do what they want to do. It's a really great community here in Los Angeles. So I want to back up a little bit. You kind of teased out some of your past in the theater community over past interviews, but I want a full origin story for Samantha Barrios. So I want to know, how did you initially get involved in theater?
Oh, you're adorable. Samantha Barrios origin story. Okay. It all started as a little girl from Venezuela being raised in Oklahoma at the age of 3. That is actually true. That's when my story starts. I was 3 years old. My mom is an actress. My grandmother also is involved in theater. Her uncle was out here making movies. He did a lot of the Westerns. And we have indigenous roots with the Cherokee tribe. And so he joined I cannot remember the name of the group, if it was the American Indian something. And so he was out here in Hollywood. He tried to get my grandmother to come out here. My great grandmother saw, and it was too brilliant, and said, nope, she's too smart for that place, and kept her away, thank goodness. But anyway, so I literally grew up in the theater. My mom would do shows all the time, and if they needed a child,
It was you.
I grew up in green rooms, helping her run lines, helping the other actors run lines, and just taking notes. I remember Wade Williams, who people will know from, if you watch any TV show ever in the history of time, he's on it. He's in everything. And he went to college with my mom, and he was Sweeney in a production of Sweeney Todd. And I remember 8 years old sitting there, like looking up going, this is it. I want to do this forever. I knew every note and every word to that musical. Amazing. I still sometimes sing it. So I don't know, that's where I grew up. I caught the bug at an early age and just stayed involved in school and did stuff outside of school. And mom got us agents, my brother and I. He's a musician and actor as well. It's amazing. And I just have to brag on my mom, though. She's a brilliant actress. Brilliant. Amazing. I learned so much from her. She's a great mentor and most fun woman to work with. So shout out to mom. So that's how I got started.
So after you moved to Oklahoma at an early age. You grew up in the green rooms. You were around that your whole life. And it seems like the moment for you was around 8 when you saw Sweeney. So when did you start kind of pursuing your own career and looking for your own roles outside of just, we need a kid, let's use Samantha?
Yeah. Oh, interesting question, actually. Okay. So I think I did a production of Diary of Anne Frank in middle school. And that was the first time that I really got an idea of the power of theater to be an educational tool and an inspirational tool.
Such a powerful story.
Such a powerful story. And to tell that story at that age, I mean, so in our school production, they did a really good job because it was multiple casts, so that we all were learning and having an experience and participation. So it was just great. But that was the first time that I was like, oh, you can do stuff with this. That was in middle school. And that was at the time, right after that was the first time I auditioned for a show. Because I had been in quite a few shows and films, but I'd never auditioned because it was always like, Graciella's daughter. Look, we need a kid. Grab Graciella's daughter. So I went and auditioned for Christmas Carol, and I did not get in. But my brother, who was just there, they asked if he would sing a song, and he got cast as Tiny Tim. And I was like, but then I think, did you leave free? Sam, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. You looked frozen for a second. I thought, oh no, we have technical difficulties. Anyway, so
I'm just listening.
No, you're right. But it did like a glitchy thing on my end. So maybe it's my computer. Maybe I froze. Anyway, so my brother got Tiny Tim and I was upset, but then I was also like his biggest fan. So I went and was around a lot. And that was the first time, I mean, like my first show I ever auditioned for, and I got rejected. And it was the first time that it became more important to me to keep trying. And I realized this means something to me, that if I'm like, okay, then I have to do whatever it is I need to do to prepare to get cast in the next thing. And then I did. The next thing I auditioned for, I got cast in. So. And then I took like summer camps, and I did Tulsa. What is it called? Tulsa Summer Arts. I did that, and then I did Oklahoma. Oh my gosh. Is it Oklahoma Summer Arts? Maybe it's just called Oklahoma Summer Arts at Quartz Mountain. That was incredible. And this is a whole long story, which I'm not going to tell now, but this had to do with some like immigration stuff and like being Venezuelan. And I had thought about becoming a lawyer, and I thought about becoming an engineer. And in high school, so somewhere in high school, I had these things boiling, and I was like, oh, I'll go to liberal arts college. And I realized that my voice is needed in such a powerful way to tell stories that are not being told. And I felt like I could better do that. And I saw my mom in a production of Death and the Maiden. That's kind of what sparked this as well. She's brilliant. And I was so moved by that. And I was like, I want to tell stories that are not like so broadly told. And, you know, I can always do engineering or law or something later. And so I went to a theater conservatory. That's when I made the decision. I made it bold, go big or go home.
Yeah.
I went to a theater conservatory.
So you have been involved with this since the womb, apparently. Mm-hmm. And you've been involved with so much, with not just theater, but film and television. How do you choose which roles or which stories you want to tell?
So I have had a bucket list since growing up. So some things are just that, where I saw something and I just was so moved by it that I wanted to tell that story, be it Les Mis or Death and the Maiden is a good example. Wait Until Dark, which I did a couple years ago. Anything Shakespeare. I love classical theater, so pretty much any classical theater I probably do. I think for me, I do it in a few ways. One, I go, what do I need in my life? If I need comedy, do I need to express myself and get people laughing? And then, well, okay, I'm rambling. I think what it is, I'm really drawn to things that we find the humor and use the comedy, and then get them when their guard is down. Yeah. With some emotion, with some sort of meaning. And that's one of the reasons why I love Del Shore so much, because he'll just have you laughing, and then 3 seconds later you are bawling because something really heartfelt and emotional just happened. And it's a lesson. It's a lesson in empathy and understanding where another person is coming from. And I just think that's so wonderful. I
think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think comedy can be so impactful when it's used in a way that's not just there to make the audience laugh, but there to really tell the story, because that's the end goal, is to tell the story. But when comedy is there to really make an impact, it can be some of the most gut-busting, hilarious thing you've ever seen. And then that also makes the real moments so much stronger.
Yeah, 100%. And I like telling stories. That's why one of the reasons why I love Del Shore so much. I like telling stories that tell about people in a different way than we're used to seeing or hearing them. So for instance, we come up with a vision or stereotype of a group of people, let's say from Oklahoma or from Texas. And then we see them in their lives with their hearts and their passions and their struggles and their fears. and their successes and all of that. And also, you know, if he specifically writes, you know, to talk about a group of people that are struggling with being harassed or judged, or, you know, like sordid lives in particular. When Ty comes out in this, you know, such a hard time for him to come out to his family, and knowing it's in a community that bashes any LGBTQ, anything that's other than their straight and narrow way of thinking or whatever. So I like stories like that. I think there's a lot of stuff that we've had in history that we don't talk about. I brought up Death in the Maiden like 9,000 times, and it's because it's a time in not US history, but in the history of the world, where we don't talk about what these kidnappings and these trials and experiments on these people and tortures and stuff like that. It sounds so dark, but we don't talk about it. And
Right.
and I think, like, you know, we need to talk about it. I love, like, for instance, Wait Until Dark. I love that because here's somebody that is, you know, later in her life, she becomes, she's in an accident, and so she's becomes blind, but she finds her own power. And it's like, here's a group of people that we kind of write off, right? Like, oh, you're disabled, so you can't do things, right? And here's this story about her overcoming, and like, she actually is the genius that was able to fight in a way other people wouldn't have been able to fight for her life, you know? So I don't know. I like things like that, meaty things like that.
So you found a show that you love, you audition, and you get in. What do you do to prepare for a role?
Okay, here's the part where if any of my Webster people are watching, they are going to tease me forever, because they're going to be like, Samantha, you never stopped doing that. No, I have not. So I sit down, I read the script. When I get cast, I read the script just again by itself, just to read it again. Then I go through and read it again, and I mark and I write down all the things that my character says about herself, and then what other things are said about her. Then I break it down into beats and I go through all my objectives. I do a character analysis pretty much every time I write about my relationships with each person in the show and a history. And then I try and find some sort of connection that I can relate to with that relationship. And I go through and I do all my objectives, overall arcing, and then each little beat, what I'm trying to get accomplished, and my wins and losses. And I just keep studying and dissecting and figuring out patterns in there. Like, for instance, Deadly, the last show that I did, it's interesting because a lot of people look at her and they take her like, you know, oh, she's so stupid and just love smitten. And I was like, that's interesting because she's the only character that wins every scene she's in. You know, like, it, you know, so I try to find like all those, like, just the meanings behind it of the story, but I want to think about how does my character contribute to those things, or detract from them if that's her purpose.
Right. Have you ever had a character as you're preparing that has been particularly challenging for you to really dissect and understand or relate to?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Do you ever find a character that you think like, oh my gosh, I just can't relate to them at all? And how do you end up finding that common connection that you can grab onto?
I don't think so. I don't think I have, because I don't think if I think if I don't connect with that character, I'm not getting cast as that character.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that there's ever been a role that I was cast in that I didn't find that connection with, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I will say this though, there have been a couple roles that So a friend of mine approached me with doing Hedwig
Mhm.
and doing Yitzhak, and I didn't audition for it. That was one that I loved the piece, but I had never thought about it as far as performing in it, because only because people didn't do it really.
Right.
And this was a while ago. This is in the it was like 2007, maybe, I think, somewhere around there. And so that was one that I had to do a lot of research on.
Right.
Because even though I hung out in that community, I really needed to understand what that character was going through and what they were feeling and their drives and their what comes from their core that makes them like make their decisions and go through life. So and like I typically do find, I have a lot of similar experiences and where I go, this character is so me. So, and it's funny, if you look at all the characters I played, you're like, how are all of those you? But I think we're multifaceted people.
Right.
That's the beauty of theater. It's all about empathy and understanding other people. And we can really relate to others when we really are putting ourselves in their experience.
So you also mentioned earlier that you are in working in Hollywood, you're working in film and TV. What is the differences between acting for camera versus acting on stage, and what keeps bringing you back to acting on stage?
You're gonna steal my job interviewing, and I am not happy about it.
I'm sorry. I'm just very interested in your career.
I'm like, these are
I'm like your biggest fan, I swear.
oh, Sam, I hurt you so much.
Ah, thank you.
I love working with you too. You're awesome.
I love working with you too.
Oh, this is a Sam Love Fest. It's kind of like no, it's like we don't even have to worry. It's like just you and me. Like no
Right.
one else is here. We just can gush on each other.
No filter.
I don't know if you realize I'm drinking so much water because I'm so nervous.
I have been drinking so much water lately too.
It's also really hot. Yeah.
It's extremely hot.
You asked me a question and it was a really good question. I totally forgot it.
So I asked, you are also very involved in film and television. How is that acting different than, or is it different than acting on stage? And what brings you back to working on stage?
Yeah. So I think the core foundation of acting is not different. I approach film and television the same way I do theater, which is it's about the story, it's about telling the story, it's about what are my objectives, what am I trying to do to get what I want, when do I win, when do I lose. Yeah, I think the technical part of it, and I remember, so my freshman year theater teacher at conservatory, she even brought this up, and she was like, I don't even know if this will be noticeable on camera, I don't even know, but she was like, the difference between the film and television is like, if what the thought is, what is that? And it's like theater is like whole body movement, and film would be, like that's the technical difference. Like it becomes just our movement. But the same thing is, I heard something and I'm wondering what it is. And in theater, we have to be a little bit more expressive. Then again, we're in LA and theaters are like the size of my living room. So sometimes it's a little like film, to be honest, really. You're not playing to a 2,000 seat house.
So how do you marry the technical part of acting with the more creative part of acting? Like at what point does your technical side have to come out, and at what point does the more creative side just have to flow?
These are good questions. Okay. Okay. I think that I think they go hand in hand. I think I work outside of a show on my craft. If it's some sort of acting exercise or vocal exercise, if someone's a singer, or if it's the technicalities of dance or breaking down stage combat or whatever, I'm working on that all the time and honing my craft regularly and learning and making sure I stay in shape. So that when I'm doing a piece, that it's already in my body. I'm not thinking, when I start singing, I'm not thinking, oh, I need this note to be in my mask and I need to lift here. I do that, all that homework already, right? So that more often than not, it's just going there. And when I get stuck, then I go, oh, what's going on? What's happening here? And then I can use the technical training to go, oh, I know what I need to do here. I need to flip into this, or I need to start with my palette raised here, whatever the technical part is. And then I'll tie that somehow into my objective.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a singing example, but I mean, I do that with acting too. If I like, if I've been given some sort of blocking or there's some prop or whatever, and I realize I'm having a hard time remembering or finding the timing on that, I realize it's not tied in with what my story is and my objective, and I've got to figure out how to tie those together so that I'm moving when I need to. I have no other choice but to move on this line because that is what's going to get me what I want. So I guess at the beginning I do a lot of that technical stuff, and I can tell if it doesn't feel right. I listen to what I'm feeling. If I do the scene and I'm rehearsing it, and I mean I do so much rehearsal on my own too, like in my bedroom. I'm sure my neighbors think I'm insane. So I do it all the time, and I work out that just what is that I'm trying to get in my objective, so that when I get into the rehearsal, I can let all of it go, and then I'm just listening to you. And what is it you're giving me? What are you doing? Because I've got all the work I've done, all the character analysis, all my objectives, all that's in my head. I've worked it all out. So that now I'm just listening, and am I getting what I want? And I can be in that moment with you because I'm just thinking about what do I want and whether or not you're giving it. And yeah.
That's great. Were you involved in any shows right before the quarantine hit? Because it's been 3 months. I don't know. Were you involved in anything that ended up getting postponed, hopefully not canceled, rescheduled, anything like that?
So not theater shows.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on 3 projects. Well, so I was home taking care of my mom. So that's what I was doing for most of the beginning of this year. She's fine, everybody, by the way. But
Yeah.
I was home working for mom, and but I was involved in 2 film projects and a podcast. And I know people are like, well, surely you can still do your podcast, but we can't go to the studio. When we would do our podcast, it was all of us together in the studio. So we haven't been able to do that. Though I am working on another podcast where our facilitator, we just record our stuff at home and send it to him, and he edits it, does magic with it, puts it together. So that's kind of fun. And then the other stuff has just been put on hold until we can be around each other without masks on.
Yeah. So when the magic of theater is allowed to come back and quarantine is over and everything's great, what kind of changes do you want to see in the theater post-quarantine?
I would like to see, uh, I would like to see um, non-atypical casting. I would like to see more diversity on stage and and people cast in roles that we normally wouldn't expect or haven't traditionally seen. I would like to see more original new works being put on, um, and people taking risk or chances on that, and people supporting that. I think we go now to the theater with some sort of entitlement of this better be good, and I think part of that is because it's expensive, and so I get that 100%.
I don't know. There is something to say about going to see a not so great production. I mean, sidetrack. Whenever I've heard stories about productions that were particularly bad, I'm always like, gosh, I wish I was there to just witness that and experience it, because those experiences, and you've shared some with me, that from years ago, and you look back and laugh at it, and there's such funny, not to laugh at like bad productions, because there's so much work and there's so much passion that's put into these, but there is something to be said to just about I don't know how to say this, but just the fact that theater only exists in that moment, and you only get to experience it in that moment. So you're ending up, whether the production was good or bad, you get to make these memories of, oh, I got to see that in real time. I didn't get to see a recording of it. I got to see actors on stage tell a story. So I just think there's something so interesting about just the nature of, you can't just go back and watch it. You have to experience it in real time.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. And I totally feel you. And I know, I mean, sometimes you start a whole scale rating system based on a show you've seen.
Oh, really?
But what's interesting, as you were saying that, I was like, what's interesting is that even when it is something that you're like, what am I witnessing here? As my friend John likes to say when his response to people is, I'm going to tell all my friends about this one. And it's like, yeah, but I think about that because what you're saying is not somebody's lack of like courage or dedication or effort. You're seeing bold choices that were like maybe weren't meshing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's awesome, actually.
Right.
That's great. Not everything has to work.
I think for me, whenever I'm going to see anything, whether it's a play, a musical, a movie, any sort of storytelling, what I always am looking for is, are they making a choice on what kind of story they're trying to tell? Because whenever I see something that I might not like, typically it's because they haven't made a decision on how they want to tell the story.
Yeah.
So even if something isn't particularly good, if they have made the decision to tell something in a certain way, I think that's better than not making the decision at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because I think those shows that, and I can remember the feeling of being in a show, but I couldn't tell you what the shows were. But those shows where I just want to like, I'm so bored and I'm just like falling asleep and I have to like eat mints to stay awake or something like that. That I think, and that's because like either exactly what you're saying, they didn't make a decision on what they were trying to do or that they were going to do anything. And they're not making any kind of choice.
Right.
And there's far and few between that I ever have that experience, which I think is good. That's like the worst, is to go in and be like, what is happening?
Right.
I would much rather see, I mean, I even remember in high school, there was one production from a high school that had a brand new theater department, and they were not very strong theater department. They did not have experienced actors. They had one experienced actress. And it was a train wreck. And let me tell you what, it really was. It was so bad. I mean, it was bad in the sense of like, they didn't know, like at one point in time, the actor came on stage, said the first line or said a line, and then stopped and looked at the person next to him and goes, walks off stage, comes back in on another part of the stage without his coat on, does a whole other scene, then like 2 or 3 scenes later comes on in that same spot and does that line again. We realized he had jumped, and then that person was like, this isn't the right part. So he had to, yeah. So, and like, here's my point about that. Like, that's something that's exciting. That, you know, like that was, even though it was like a train wreck, it was like, that was something that
You got to see it, you know?
Yeah. It wasn't just like humdrum, we're not making any choices and we're really not invested in this story. We're not telling this story. You know?
Right.
So I think, yeah, I think that's great. And the other thing is, look, when people are acting and storytelling, they're putting themselves out there.
Yes.
And regardless of whether it's my cup of tea or not, they put in work. They are putting themselves out there for judgment, which is hard. And they, you know, if they put in time to learn their character, figure out what it is they're trying to say, and tell this story. And I applaud that. And I don't have to like it or even agree with it. I applaud that. I think that's
Absolutely.
awesome.
So just to wrap it up a little bit right here, one last question I have is, you have given, I feel like you've given quite a bit of great advice so far, but what advice do you have for other actors, whether they are up and coming, they're looking for some sort of thing to inspire them, or people who have been already acting for a long time who might need something fresh to think about?
I think I think it's to remember why we do it. I think that's whether or not whether you're just getting into it or whether you've been doing this for 9,000 years. It's to remember why we're doing it, why we do these, why we play, why we tell these stories, and to not forget that the purpose of theater, film, TV, whatever, storytelling, and to tell our truth, whatever our character's truth is. So I think it's rejuvenating to think about that. And I think that at the moment that a person doesn't know why they're doing it anymore, and isn't, like, if they ask themselves that and they don't know the answer, what's the answer? You know, and you know, you got to either find it again or find something else. So I think I would say that. And then I would also say, because to me, when we really know why we're telling stories and why we chose this, and it's in our DNA, it doesn't matter whether you're performing in front of 2 people or 2,000 people for a 1.5-minute audition or for a 3-hour Shakespeare. It's that moment in time that you're experiencing and sharing. And I think that's really beautiful and impactful. So I should just remember that.
Yeah, I think that's great, because I hope I'm not alone. I've had moments where I've been like, I'm never doing this again. And I just feel insecure about myself. I don't know why I'm doing this, but then I remember, like, what always ends up happening is, let's say if I had auditioned for a few things and didn't get any of them, what ends up happening is I'm like, oh, I'm never doing this again. And then 3 days later, I'm like, oh, here's an audition I'm going to.
Yeah.
So I always end up reminding myself, I just can't escape it, because I always end up reminding myself why I want to keep doing it and why I love it so much and why I'm so passionate about it. And it's really because of just telling the story and being able to convey that to other people. I think there's so much you can do with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like, our why may change throughout, and it may be different at the beginning of the year than it is at the end of the year or next year comes back. I mean, sometimes my why is because I want to work on a project with a bunch of people. Sometimes my why is this story has to be told. I feel so passionately about it. Sometimes my why is just purely like, I am itching. I have not delved into something and I just need to do it. Sometimes it's challenge, whatever it is, just that's you have to answer that for yourselves and focus on that.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh, when you did that thing, I was just reminded my mom, we were doing it. She's watching. It's like, Samantha, don't tell the story. Anyway, I was filming her for an audition, and I just have to preface this. So I'm my mom's acting coach as well. And
You are your mom's acting coach?
I'm an acting coach. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Add that to the list of things she can do.
So let me just say this though. Being my mom's acting coach is the easiest job in the world because she's amazing. So it is not like, well, anyway. So, so that being said, I have to preface this why when my mom does a take of like for an audition or for anything, it's good. Like it's good 100% of the time. But sometimes there might be like a moment where, oh, this wasn't clear, or like a technical moment of like, oh, I missed seeing the decision to do that in your head, or you rushed this beat change or whatever. Like it's just a technical thing. It's not bad. It's an audition. So I want to show all the elements so that
right.
Like, we have to have that woman. I mean, they're going to be like that anyway, 9 times out of 10, because that's how they are. But anyway, so the other day, I'm helping my mom with an audition, and it was like this. She'd give this like stellar audition, and I'd be like, Mom, that was awesome. Just so you know, actually the line is blah, 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 and we just want to have that thought and that beat change. And then she like flings herself on the bed, and it's like, why did I even bother? What's going on? Now, granted, this was in quarantine, so we all had quarantine crazies at this moment.
Absolutely.
And then there's another full on laying down. Then she goes, then we did it. And I go, that was so good. She's like this. And I go, I just want to do it one more time. She goes, do we have to? It's like, why am I not filming all of this? Because this is hysterical. I'm just telling that story because I've been there. I like was just there in an audition that I just had to do myself because it was a monologue. And I was like, this is the 90th take I've done this. Why am I even bothering? This is so stupid. I'm not even gonna get the job, you know.
I have
by the way, she totally got a call back. Anyway, go ahead.
That's great. I love that. There have been so many moments where not moments, but where I have auditions where I have learned a new song for it, and I have done the song about 1,000,000 times, and there's like one part that I am messing up every time, and I have absolutely been to the place where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get it, and then I go into the room and it's everything I had been trying to do, and I'm like, okay, so why hadn't I done that the past 100 times? You know
why? Because it's the let go step, and when you're in rehearsal. And this is why I always have to say when we're doing self-tape auditions, oh, here's some more advice. When we're doing self-tape auditions, remember that part of that actually, it may not feel like this, but part of that is your rehearsal. Because if you think about when we're preparing to do a scene for film, we're preparing to do for a play, we rehearse forever. And we iron out all the timing and we know our character. When you're doing an audition, you don't know your character as well as you would when you walk onto the set.
Absolutely.
When you walk into after 6 weeks of rehearsal or 3 weeks of 8-hour equity rehearsals, like we have to cut ourselves some slack of thinking like, why am I not nailing this? Well, you're not at the let go step yet. But when you get to the part where you're performing, that's the part where you let go and you trust all that work you did. And then you're just in the moment. And I think that's why sometimes we walk into an audition, we do the let go step, awesome. And we're like, nailed, oh my gosh, I nailed it. When you couldn't nail it in the parking lot 10 minutes before. And that's because you're judging and you're stressing because you're in rehearsal mode. And that's what you're supposed to do in rehearsal mode. Not judge and stress, but analyze and think about what you're trying to do.
That makes a lot of sense because I remember there was one particular audition that I did at my school where I was not even learning the song. I think I was doing a different part of the song that I didn't typically do. And I had done it, I swear, 30 times a day for 2 weeks. I didn't get it word perfect until I walked into that audition room. And before I walked in, I was like, well, there's nothing I can do anymore. Let's just hope it works out. And then I did it the way I wanted to. So yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah. I love this craft. I love it so much. Today I did an audition, a callback with 3 other actresses. We had so much fun. I think we were on the call for like 15 minutes, did on my lunch hour. It was like, but I was so fulfilled because this is the experiences you're sharing and talking about, all the reasons. I mean, there's something magical about even a commercial. Like there's something magical about what this craft that we do and this and playing. And just that's what we're doing. We're playing pretend.
Yeah.
We're given. And there's just something magical about that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for me.
I hope I did a good job because I'm nervous.
You're nervous? Why are you nervous?
I feel better right now.
What?
I feel better right now.
Oh, you feel better right now. Okay, that's good.
Sam, I'm shy. You know this about me.
You're shy?
Yes. Why are you acting surprised?
I just never thought you were shy.
I'm horribly shy. So okay. when I'm doing the interviewing, it's fine because I'm putting on interview Sam character. And I have all the things I'm supposed to say written down. But when I'm being the interviewee, I'm like, is that stupid? Did I just sound stupid?
No, you did not sound stupid, Sam.
I know every other actor is watching this going, yeah, me too.
No, oh gosh.
We all feel like that, right?
You don't have to feel like that.
I know. You made me feel comfortable. Don't steal my...
I'm not going to steal your job. Don't worry.
You can steal it. We can team interview.
Oh gosh.
Can I just say real quickly before we log off? I love working with you and I love our fun little...
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
It's so true though. I mean, it's just so fun to like bounce ideas off and do all of our silly little things.
Yeah. And be silly for an hour on a YouTube live stream.
You know what's funny too? Some people asked me to cut this to half an hour and I was like totally going to do that. And I have every intention, but then we just get to talking.
I tried to have it just be half an hour and that didn't happen. And that's not your fault. That's my fault for asking more questions than I wrote down. So
you know what I think it is? If people don't want to watch the whole hour, they can just log off. Or they can do like what my bestie Adam does, which is just watch everything on fast speed.
Double speed? Yeah.
Like chipmunks, yeah. That's how he listens to everything.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
I think we're having a good time watching a scab.
I hope people are too, because this is kind of just how it is usually.
Yeah.
Between us.
It's pretty much.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Oh, I always just think, well, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that now we have to get it to we can do Facebook and Insta Live at the same time.
Yeah, we do.
Maybe we should do some funny tests for our audience members when we're trying to figure this out.
Yes.
Maybe, hey guys, log in later or subscribe to our channel to watch Sam and Sam try test how to get 3 platforms live at the same time. That's gonna be entertaining. Yeah.
That would be very entertaining. Well, I think, oh, we got a comment.
Oh.
It's your mom.
My mom. I'm her biggest fan.
She says fun, fun, fun.
You guys, I just want you all to know Graciela Valderrama is watching us right now.
I'm so glad. I feel so honored.
We've made it. That's what that means. We've made it.
We've made it. We truly have.
We're in the big times now, kids.
Well, I want to say that's all I have tonight. Do you have anything for me? I don't know how to end this. This is the part I was not prepared for.
My mom's laughing. Oh,
you can do the outro. I'm not as good at that as you are.
Okay, I'm back in the control seat.
I'm in the hot seat now.
This feels much better. Thank you.
Great.
You guys, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Sam, for interviewing me. That was fun. And
that was fun.
And you know, it's yeah, I'm glad I got to share my little origin story. That was kind of fun, actually.
Yeah. You've been teasing it out. I've been waiting to hear it.
There's so much more, so many stories. Yay, Star Wars. I have so many ridiculous stories. You will hear them all, I trust.
I'm so excited.
But everybody, we have some great guests lined up. So next Sunday, or this Sunday, sorry, coming up, we will get to sit down with Susan Stengel, who's the director of Vanya, Sonia, Masha, and Spike. And that was the show that was supposed to open when quarantine hit. So she's going to sit down with us, and we're going to get all the ins and outs of that. And then next Thursday, we get to hear from a family.
Wow.
The Plunkett family is going to sit down with us.
I'm so excited.
I know. And then, well, I'll save the others for next week. I'll tease the other people. We got a pretty good lineup. I've been filling in all the slots.
Great lineup.
So we got some good people that have that perform all around town and have performed at Kentwood. They're going to come in, and some designers. We've got some designers coming up, which we haven't done a designer yet. So that's going to be exciting. Okay. And well, I mean, technically we did because Mel and I are award-winning teammates. So, put that out there. Anyway, tune in, subscribe to us, please. And we're here every Sunday night at 7 and Thursday night at 7. And we'll see you guys later. Take care.
Bye. Thank you for watching. Okay, how do I end?